Okay, great. So thank you everyone for joining us on today's webinar about this big Google update happening on April 21st. I know it says here it starts at 3 p.m., but that's more for this webinar, not this Google update. So I don't want to cause any confusion there. Well, I mean, if anyone that's following in the digital marketing world, there's a lot of news, a lot of buzz going around this big algorithm change that Google is making. It's happening April 21st. It's going to impact a ton of websites out there, and it's really impacting a lot of mobile websites out there. Now, is this update bigger than the previous updates like Panda and Penguin and so forth? The answer is probably yes, because it's going to impact websites at a larger scale. However, having that said, the key thing I first want to tell everyone on this webinar is, number one, is don't panic. The reason why is, well, first of all, a few things. This is one of the rare times that Google has actually came and told us prior to doing an algorithm update and letting webmasters and owners and businesses know that here's the date we're going to roll out the changes, here's what you could do to prepare for this update, because it's not like they're trying to really go out there and penalize and hurt people, and the people that actually genuinely should be ranking, they want to remove them and get them to lose traffic. That's not their goal at all. At the end, they want to make sure that the user has the best experience on Google and on your website, regardless of whatever device that they're using. So they're giving everyone ample enough time for you to go ahead and make the required changes, which we'll get into today in terms of to make sure that your website doesn't negatively get impacted. A second big thing that we're hearing is a lot of people have concerns that, well, if my desktop website or my rankings in Google right now is great on desktop and tablet and laptop searches and so forth, will this impact me on that side if I don't have a mobile-friendly website? We can't say for sure. I mean, we'll only know April 21st until Google actually rolls out the changes. But as of right now, the answer is still no. This is specifically a mobile update. It's only going to impact mobile search results and will not have an impact on your desktop and laptop and all your other searches. And also keep in mind the fact that I know everyone's talking about this April 21st date, but even if you make the required changes to make sure that your website is up to speed and up to par to Google's standard, it's not like they're going to hold a grudge if it's not done by the April 21st. I mean, the previous updates Google has launched, the case was already, you get penalized, then you try your best to be in Google's good books. Maybe you resubmit your website, or you get new content, or you try to clean up your links, or whatever you're trying to do. But then it was really at the kind of the mercy of Google. It was kind of that waiting game, and sometimes you have to wait for another algorithm refresh before you were given a second chance. This is not the case with this update. Again, they're not trying to penalize websites out there. They're just proactively trying to get everyone on board on the same page to make sure that the mobile experience is not ignored. So as soon as you go ahead and fix these issues, you will and should recuperate your rankings and your position and all that traffic accordingly. Another reason why I say don't panic is what I'm talking about right here about this mobile and all this stuff that Google's going to be talking. This stuff, honestly, it's not new. I mean, if you're worried about if your website's not mobile friendly today, you might have some other bigger concerns in terms of all that traffic and potential visibility you have lost years from now. Mobile has been around for a long, long time, and I could bombard you guys with statistics of how many people are doing mobile searches and the rise of mobile devices, and there's even more mobile devices now in the world than there are people. So I mean, there's tons of supporting facts. And again, this is nothing new. We all know this stuff. So this is why it's looking at something like this where you're imagining, I don't know if there's a 50 or whatever long, years ago, where how did we used to interact with each other and consume media? So this might look like something that you guys could all relate to when you're watching television with the family. And I'm right now 32, and I still remember I was the youngest sibling growing up, so I was actually the remote control. I was the one that had to get up to the television and turn the dial, and anytime anybody wanted to watch a different station, which By the way, we only had 13 stations to actually choose from. And I think one of them was kind of fuzzy. But anyways, this was 50 years ago, and this is where we are today, where when we're consuming media, we're watching television, you've got the laptop out, someone's got their phone in their hand, someone's got a tablet on their hand, and we all know this stuff. This is our human behavior now, and even television shows now, they understand how people are engaging with different types of consoles, which is the reason why that they're making a lot of their shows a lot more interactive, encouraging people to use hashtags or making interactive apps that tie in towards the actual television show. And even commercials are taking it to that level where, you know, where you're watching a commercial during your favorite show, and then you could get retargeted possibly when you're doing a search on your desktop, laptop, or tablet, because it knows that you've watched a particular show and that commercial actually aired. So again, all this stuff is not new. It's already existing for a long, long period of time, which really your website should already be up to date with all these mobile changes going out there. All right, so in terms of the multi-device world, and again, I don't think any of these slides are going to be shocking. And by the way, if there's any issues with the audio, I think someone just pointed out they're hearing some beeping or something in the background, but just let me know. But in terms of the actual devices that we're using right now throughout the day and throughout the night, I mean, it is a little bit different. I mean, they had a stat that showed the first thing people do when they wake up is check their phone. In fact, particularly people are more likely to check Facebook first thing in the morning than they are to brush their teeth. Now, I know that can vary individual to individual. Some of us might laugh at that. Some of us might relate to that. But the important part is we all experience this day to day. So you wake up, you know, you go to work, and maybe you're using your desktop, laptop there. You come home, you're using your mobile device, or you grab the tablet. This is the way we do our searches, conduct research, interact with our friends and family. This is all of the norm. And again, I want to point out that this is nothing new. So Google has been preaching for a long, long time to go multi-screen, and I told you I would not bore you with all these facts of why go mobile and why is it important, but I still thought I would share this data here with you that shows whether you're a brick and mortar store or you do your business totally online. The point is this: a lot of people use their smartphone before making purchases or buying decisions or researching, whether it's before they make the buying the decision or they go back to their mobile device and actually make the purchase there. So again, all these slides will be available to you guys to use and to reference. But again, do not panic with this update. The other big thing that you want to take a look at is your current analytics. So if you are a website owner, there's a strong probability you're probably using a tool like Google Analytics to monitor your website. Now, you might not be in there every single day looking at data or monthly. This is something you might rely on your digital marketing consultant or your agency to provide you, so you can always reach out to them and ask them for this information. And if you ever did want to go look at it yourself, you can log into Google Analytics. At the top left-hand corner, hit Audience, hit Mobile, hit Overview, and you will see a screen like this, which you could see that in this particular case, this client in the last 30 days, they had about 36% of all their traffic coming from mobile devices. In fact, you can even see how they behaved, what was their bounce rate, what was their average time on the website. Of course, if you're e-commerce, you want to make sure that you've got all your conversion and your tracked transactions configured in your analytics so you can track and measure. In this case, you could see about 7.6% of revenue sales came out of their mobile device. So all this stuff is very, very important to kind of analyze and to dissect. If you want to take it even one step further, not just looking at mobile, you could even break it down by device and look at, you know, what devices are coming to my website. So again, really depending on what your business is and what you're servicing, maybe this information is now too granular for you and it doesn't really make a difference if someone's using this version of a Samsung phone versus a Google Nexus phone versus an Apple iPhone. But if you're in a business where, for example, you're developing mobile apps or mobile games, I mean, then it's important to take a look at, well, what's the most used platform, the iOS, the operating system, the browser, the device type, the version type, because if you're launching software, you want to make sure that based on your target audience and demographics, the platform that they're using, you want to make sure that the version that you built is first supported and debugged around that particular, so you're hitting the widest range of audience towards your product or towards your service. So you can kind of see in this screenshot over here showing the top 10 devices for this particular website that we snagged this morning. I always have to show this. My good partner, Doug Shust, which a lot of you guys are familiar with, and if you don't know, Krista as well from G-Shift, two of my very good partners and friends. They seem to hang on this thing called the BlackBerry, and I always have to tease them every time I see them with it. So I had to do this in my slide. I went and looked at the top, in terms of where did BlackBerry even show up in terms of this particular website. And you can see right there, I had to go all the way to position number 126 before the BlackBerry actually came up. I mean, it was, the Barnes & Noble HD tablet had more traffic to this site than a BlackBerry did. Oops. And even if you look underneath, like, it slightly outbeat the China Mobile and a CoolPad. I've got no idea what those devices even are. So again, if you got any BlackBerry fans listening to this webinar, I'm not knocking on you guys. I just got good friends I tease them about. But anyways, I had to put that in there. So point is, you could take a look at your website traffic, take a look at your mobile traffic, take a look at your devices. All this data is available to you. Google is estimating I think about 32% of all traffic, give or take, is coming through mobile devices. That's the average that we're seeing for most of our clients as well. It hovers between the 30 to 35%. Obviously, it's going to depend based on your industry and where you're physically located and so forth, but that's a general trend. So if about 35% of your traffic coming through mobile device is not experiencing the best type of experience on your website, you're losing a lot of potential revenue, sales, leads, whatever the goal of your website is. That becomes a loss because those people get frustrated, trying to navigate on their smartphones, and they're going to go get that information somewhere else. So, having that said, another thing I just want to quickly share, since we're talking about Google Analytics. When you first log into Google Analytics, this is the typical screen that you're going to see. It's called the Audience Overview. And I know I showed you how you could see how many people are coming to your website via a mobile device and what type of devices they're using. But if you really want to look at engagement and how is that mobile traffic, how are they behaving on your website, there's a simple way to do so, and I want to quickly share this tip with you. So when you log into your analytics at the top, closer to the top right-hand corner, you'll see a section there that says Add Segment. You want to go ahead and click on this button. And when you click on this, it'll bring up a screen in which on the left-hand side, you can go ahead and click System, and then it gives you a whole bunch of things you can check off. Go ahead and check off where it says Mobile Traffic. You'll notice on top of that it says mobile and tablet traffic. So again, depending on what you want to segment and so forth, but if you only want to look at mobile traffic as a standalone, go ahead and check that on, hit the Apply button, and then all the data in Google Analytics will re-render and show you the experience in terms of time spent on site, pages that they viewed, bounce rates, all the conversion elements that you have on there, and it shows you this information. So great quick way to understand your mobile behavior and audience. Okay, so let's also just talk about why, I know we're talking about April 21st, but again, I would still say this is so late into the future. It just made total sense to do this long time ago. And even just from a general marketing perspective, so if you're doing search engine optimization, if you're doing pay-per-click marketing or email marketing, and you realize people are coming to my website on a mobile device, or they're clicking through, or they're conducting searches on a mobile device, you have to understand that people doing searches through mobile are typically different than people doing searches on desktop and laptop. Generally, the trend is if someone's searching on a mobile device, they want quick, fast information. So for example, if you were a restaurant and you went to a website on your phone, you're probably looking for either a phone number, directions, or the menu. That's typically what you want to see. If you're an airline, you're probably looking at flight delays, like alerts, or your booking gate, and just some quick information like that. You don't need to know all the general stuff that you would see if you visited the airline's website on your desktop or your laptop. So having that said, take a look at this scenario. If someone were to go to Google and let's just say they're searching for the word pizza, and they're in their house and they're conducting their search via their laptop, and it's slightly after 5 p.m. So the ad copy, which you guys have total control of when you're doing ads in Google, so I'm just throwing a scenario here, you could assume that this person is probably looking to ordering pizza just based on to their house, because you know their location, you know the device they're using, and the time that they're doing so. So you can make sure that your ad copy, and I was going to fix this and I forgot, I know it's kind of blurry here, but your ad copy kind of reads to that user that wants to order pizza back to their house. Versus, let's just assume someone again is searching for pizza, but instead they're at the mall. And now they're using their mobile phone to conduct the search, and it's just slightly after 7 p.m. So now you know that they mostly either want a pickup special or a quick takeout menu to take back depending on what time the mall closes and things like that. But again, you could get this granular because based on the way people are searching, the device that they're using, the time, and the location, you could custom segment your ads, your landing pages, your verbiage to that person. It won't be 100% accurate, but you can make assumptions based on these metrics that we just talked about. So you can see on this example over here, you could say place an order for a $10 carry-out special, and it has a phone number right there. So just a quick example how two terms like pizza, your ad copy could be very different depending on location, device, and time of day. All right, let's now talk about this April 21st. This is kind of the scariest image I could find at like the end of the world. And like I said, I open up with don't panic, so I'm not still trying to get people to panic, but again, it's just one of those things I want to point out there that this is not something, we all knew this was coming. So having that said, I'm not trying to downplay this update. It's still a big, big update. Businesses should be concerned if they don't have a mobile-friendly website, and even if you do have a mobile-friendly website, or even if you do have something called a responsive website, which we'll get into all this stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're 100% safe from this April 21st update. So we'll get into, first of all, let's look at what Google is actually telling us what this update really is about. So this is directly a statement from Google, and they're saying starting April 21st, we will be expanding the use of our mobile friendliness as our ranking signal. This change will affect mobile searches in all languages worldwide, and it will have a significant impact in our search results. Consequently, users will find it easier to get relevant, high-quality search results that are optimized for their devices. So really what Google is basically saying here is, again, they're thinking about mobile experience, and they're willing to jeopardize, people's rankings that deserve to be there if you do not give a friendly experience to your mobile customers. So what could you guys do now that you know this information? So a few things. Number one is if you don't already have a mobile website or a responsive website, well, you have to pick one. And just to kind of quickly explain what the difference is, a responsive website or responsive design basically means you've got a website or you're going to invest in a website where the way the technology is built behind it, it will automatically adjust to desktop, laptop, tablet, a smartphone, any multiple devices, multi-screen, all the images, content, widgets, whatever you have will scale according to the size of the screen. So that way it becomes very friendly for whoever is using it. A mobile website, like a standalone mobile website, is something that sits separate from your main website, and usually you could tell it's a mobile standalone when you see like m.yourdomainname.com or domainname.com/mobile. Those are the two most common URLs used for mobile devices, but it's kind of like a standalone, its own website in addition to your main website. So here's how you determine if you don't have one. If you don't have a mobile-friendly website, you want to figure out, well, which one should I pick? There's kind of pros and cons of each. So let's look at responsive design. The big win about responsive design is the fact that it's only really one website. So you're managing one website, it's one CMS, and when you make updates to the site, you don't have to worry about tablet, mobile, desktop, laptop, because the entire website would automatically adjust everything to fit the screen size. And even Google, this is something that they recommend, that they prefer that businesses do and lean towards, is something called a responsive design. So that's the big plus. The downside, on the other hand, is from a price standpoint, typically there's more upfront costs because this is going to involve rebuilding your website. So especially if your website's old and it's outdated, or if you don't like the look and design, or if you're not happy with the functionality, or really if you just want to refresh up your website anyways, I would definitely lean towards responsive design because you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. On the other hand, if you're happy with your desktop website, it looks great and so forth, it just doesn't look good on a mobile device, and then you have some budget constraints as well, then you should lean towards the mobile website. So when you build a standalone mobile website, the downside is, in most cases, now you kind of got like two CMS systems. So if you're making updates and changes, adding content, photos, and things like that, you now have to make it on your main website, and you also have to make it on your mobile website. Technology is getting smarter now, where a lot of it is being able to kind of pick up and auto-sync, but still generally, you're dealing with two separate websites with two separate URLs, and you have to worry about how Google handles these URLs as well, because now you don't want to get hit with things like duplicated content, because your mobile content is the same as your desktop content, but really they're on different domain names, but we as humans know it's the same website, but Google treats it as different. So I mean, even though Google is smart, that's why they're saying, look, make it easier for us as well, make it easier for you, and go responsive. But like I said, if budget is an issue and you're happy with your main website, a mobile website will do just fine. But just keep in mind, depending on how often you update and change content information, your monthly maintenance cost could be, and resources could be higher, opposed to if you just went with a responsive design. Okay, so now let's just say you have a mobile-friendly website or you have a responsive design, and you want to make sure that, am I going to be impacted on April 21st? Do I need anything to worry about? So if you are the owner of the business, the thing that you could do is use the Google mobile test. And again, we will provide you, along with the presentation, we'll provide you with all the URLs to go ahead and check out these tools and do this test. So you can go ahead and simply put in your website URL, hit the Analyze button. So this morning, I went in and I chose NHL.com. I'm a big hockey fan. I'm from Toronto, so I was kind of joking with the session we had this morning, the fact that it just so happened that the Leafs lost 5-0. I mean, I know that's a whole different topic. We're getting hammered. I should probably have picked the NBA because the Raptors won yesterday. So unfortunately, I didn't update this slide, but the point here I'm trying to make is, you want to look for this little friendly thing from Google saying, awesome, this page is mobile friendly. Now, just because it says this, it doesn't necessarily mean your site is okay. Look what Google is telling you. It's this page is mobile friendly. So if you just put in your home page, it could be that your home page is fine, but what about your interior pages? Maybe they are not. So if you've got a 5-page website versus a 50-page website versus 500 versus 5,000, I mean, this could get very time-consuming for you to go through and input in every single URL of your website to make sure it's okay. There's a quicker and faster and easier way to do so, which is step number, well, let me first show you, before we get to that, let me show you an example of what would happen if you put in a website that's not mobile friendly. So, again, this morning, I just typed in hair salon, because usually hair salons, a lot of their websites are heavily flash driven, heavy on imagery, and things like that. So I was able to find one relatively quickly still that for my presentation today, in which I input the URL and I get a message like this saying, hey, this one's not mobile friendly, and Google's telling you that your text is too small to read, and the mobile viewpoint, which is basically the system telling it when to zoom in to the full width of the page versus zooming out, is not set. The content is wider than the screen, basically meaning that you got to scroll left and right. I mean, we're all used to scrolling up and down. That's normal in our eyes. We don't flick left and right unless, like, you know, you're on Tinder, but that's a whole different type of conversation about flicking. But generally on websites, you know, we don't scroll left and right, and we don't like scrolling left and right. That's not a normal experience on mobile devices. It's about, you know, going up and down. So this is information that, again, Google is letting you know. And even if you look at the last line, the links are too close together. So it's telling you good information about your site that is not mobile friendly, in which, of course, you could take this information, go back to your designer or your developer or your agency that you've picked, and talk to them about getting either, like we talked about, our responsive design if you're not happy with your existing website, or building a standalone mobile website. So number 2, which is probably the most important tool that you want to take a look at. Again, if you are a business owner, if you're the owner of the website, you should have access to Google Webmaster Tools. Probably you don't, because this is something like your digital team or your agency would set up on your behalf and look at. So you could consult with them just to make sure that they have a look at this information, and they could provide you this information as well. Google Webmaster Tools is a very, very powerful marketing tool for people that build websites, that optimize websites, and just generally want to know that the website is in good health with Google. I mean, if I uploaded new pages to my website and I want to let Google know about it, I can't just pick up the phone and call Google. Or vice versa. If Google has trouble crawling some of my pages on my website, again, Google's not going to pick up the phone and call me. So the way we communicate with each other is through Google Webmaster Tools. Again, this is a very powerful tool. It does lots of things, but what I want to focus on today's session is one specific feature called the Mobile Usability Report. So inside, when you log into this Google Webmaster account, on the left-hand side underneath Search Traffic, there's something called Mobile Usability. You want to click on that, and Google will let you know if they have any problems on your website. In this particular case, it's saying that there's no issues. So this is a good sign, and that means you will not be impacted on April 21st. This is a main area that you want to check to make sure that, hey, am I going to be, is this April 21st stuff going to hurt me in a good or bad way? Google Webmaster Tools is your friend. Now let's look at a scenario in which it is impacted. We've got another site up here in which is telling us there's one error in which the touch elements are too close. And if you want to learn more about what does Google really mean by that, well, they explain it. And it's basically saying that your buttons or your navigation links or your calls to action, they're so close to each other that if someone would want to tap it, they might not be able to tap it easily. And I can kind of relate to this because I kind of joke around that I've got, you know, big fat fingers, and I don't know if you guys are Seinfeld fans, but I love Seinfeld, and there's this one episode where Jerry was with this girl and she had man hands, but I could relate to this stuff because I don't have piano fingers. So if someone has like these big fat fingers like mine and they're trying to hit the Contact Us button on your website, but they're clicking something else because it's just not mobile friendly enough and they're too close based on the screen size, Google is letting you know. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and fix these changes that they're putting inside Webmaster Tools as they're telling you if they're having any difficulty, whether and that was just one example of the touch elements too close. There's about 6 or 7 things that they check, like, or is the font size too small, and they actually will give you all the information that you need and what needs to be fixed. So definitely this is your place to go. So outside of this is number 3. Now, this tool, the speed test, I would use this with caution. I'll explain why in a bit. Because speed of your website is very, very important. Like years ago, speed was only really a factor in Google AdWords and your ad score and quality score. Meaning that if you were doing pay-per-click and you were sending traffic to your landing page and Google is like, look, if your landing page takes more than 5 seconds to load, that's going to negatively impact your overall score and your cost per click is going to go higher because the user experience is going to go down and most likely they're not going to even wait for that page to load. 5 seconds is a long time on the web, especially when nothing is happening. And then slowly, Google later adapted that in terms of SEO results as well. It's not a prime factor, but it's a factor of many, many factors. So how fast your website loads became a ranking factor and signal in terms of how well you're going to be positioned in the search engine result page. So this tool over here will allow you to not only just check your mobile site, but also check your desktop site to make sure that is the speed accurate and could it be improved. So let's take a look at that example of that website, NHL.com. You notice, remember, this is the website that Google said was great and it was fine, it was mobile friendly, but now when I run it through the speed test, it's telling me it's scoring a score of 51 out of 100. And it gives me a list of things I should fix and things I need to consider fixing, and then some other elements underneath as well. So again, the reason I say use this tool with caution, because not to say that if you score poorly on this, you will be impacted on April 21st. Again, I want to reinforce, use your Google Webmaster Tools as your main source to if Google's going to tell you there's problems with your website, that's the main area to check. This, on the other hand, is not something I should say just ignore now. I think down the road, after this April 21st update, the things that Google is suggesting here for webmasters and businesses to do will be taken into consideration. I mean, it might already be taken into some consideration, but again, not to that point where it's 100% looking at this speed test and all the elements you should fix and going to be scoring you based on that. The reason I say that, I mean, even if you look at Google's own website, like their own homepage, which is simply just a Google logo and a search box, you can see they score a score of 78 out of 100. And it still tells you things that they should fix and so forth. So at the end of the day, I'm not trying to say ignore this. If any time Google is giving you recommendations on things they want fixed or broken links or pages that they have trouble crawling or elements they cannot index or scan, there's a reason why they're telling you this. And whether it gets implemented into their algorithms or their ranking factor or whatever it is now or not, assume it will be at one point. So if you want to always stay ahead of your competitors and not worry about algorithm updates in terms of different versions and launches and then trying to scramble and figure out why your rankings have plummeted and why your traffic has dipped and then you have to wait along for Google again. I mean, pay close attention to this stuff. Speak to your digital marketing consultant or your agency, and they can advise you based on the elements in here that it should fix and consider fixing, the ones that are worthwhile of doing, and the cost associated to do so as well. Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up over here in terms of the different types of websites we've talked about. So one of the key important factors is most people that we work with or end up doing work with us, we build a responsive website. So it's very important that when you're building responsive websites, especially moving forward, that you use this tag, the meta name is equal to viewport, a very, very important tag that Google looks for. Again, if you're a business owner, I mean, not to get all technical, this is not going to mean much to you, but it's important that your developers are using this tag to make sure that it's telling the search engines when to zoom or zoom out on the page and so forth. I mean, they actually specifically look for this tag, so we strongly recommend it is included for all responsive websites out there. If, on the other hand, you don't have a responsive website, in some rare cases, we've seen clients that have a dynamic serving mobile website, which basically means that if somebody came to their website, the server is able to determine are they coming from a desktop versus a smartphone. And if they realize it's coming from a smartphone, the website would automatically serve up a different page. So it's showing different pages to different users depending on the user agent that's coming. And the user agent could mean Google, it could mean any search engine, it could mean different bots out there that are crawling and scanning the website. So if you are using dynamic serving, and I don't think this is going to apply to many of you out there, but in case you are using this, again, if you're not sure, speak to your tech team and they can advise you how your website has been set up. But you'd want to use something called a very HTTP header as well that helps the search engine signal that this is this type of website, and also depending on the actual user agent. Last but not least, if you use a separate mobile website, meaning if you have like m.domainname.com, now you have a separate website outside your main website, here are some of the things that you want to keep in mind. Number one, make sure that Googlebot can crawl your JavaScript, CSS, and image files by using the Fetch as Google in Google Webmaster Tools. So before, I was talking about in Google Webmaster Tools looking at the mobile usability report. There's other functionality there as well. One important one, the Fetch as Google, will actually show you what your website will look like or page will look like if Google were to crawl it. And you can select Google Mobile and so forth. And it will let you know if they have any troubles crawling any of your files, pages, indexes, and so forth. And then, of course, you want to go ahead and correct those. Number two, you want to make sure you check and test your robots text file also in your Google Webmaster Tools. For those people that are not aware about what a robots text file is, and again, I apologize, I don't want to get too technical in this webinar, but these are important elements that, again, you could share with your developer or your agency if you have any questions. But basically, a robots text file, this is the first file that any search engine, when they come to your website, they check to see does it even exist. And basically, it's kind of letting them know that what pages do you want them to scan and which pages do you want them to not scan and index on your website. It also gives other important information like where is your sitemap and stuff located, but you want to make sure that your mobile site, your mobile pages, Google is able to crawl and actually index. And you can test that inside your Google Webmaster Tools account. Okay, let's just look at some other tips over here as well. Number one, avoid unplayable media, or even any type of Flash and so forth, especially on mobile. So there's nothing wrong with using Flash. I mean, if you're using Flash on your main website, as long as it's not in your navigation or in your links or in your content, you're okay. There's ways to actually utilize Flash to make the engagement level better. But now, again, there's HTML5, there's parallax. There's so much other ways now to have that same level of make your website stand out more and be a little bit more interactive than using Flash. So, and especially if you're using mobile devices, Flash does not translate well over on many of these devices, and the search engine have a hard time indexing this as well. So in their eyes, it's kind of like old technology. I don't believe it's going to be adapted much longer. HTML5 seems to be the way that it's being shifted towards. And if you're using any type of videos and things like that, again, you want to embed videos using like YouTube or any of the other major video players that will work on most devices out there. Number two, you want to make sure that you use something called schema, structured data. What this basically means is if I go to Google and I type in like butter chicken recipe, sometimes right in the search engine result page, I will notice like a snippet, like an image of the butter chicken. It'll show me the star rating. It'll show me the number of calories, the time it takes to make it, and along with the typical website title, description, and the link. But the key thing is having this visual, especially on mobile, since the screen size is so much smaller, stands out predominantly, much better than if you don't have it. So your click-through rates are so much higher on mobile searches just because it takes up so much space and just looks more visual and better for someone to click on. So another example is, for example, if you're like a hotel, and I typed in hotel in San Diego, and I see, again, star ratings, I see reviews, I see what the price would be to book the hotel for today. And all of this without even going to the physical website and clicking anything. All this is showing right in the search engine result page. That's what we call these search snippets or schema tags. that you could speak to your consultant or your agency about implementing on your website. Has a huge impact on mobile click-through rates as well as desktop click-through rates as well. Number 3, you want to create an XML mobile sitemap. So again, a sitemap is like a table of contents of your entire website. An XML sitemap is simply the same thing, but it's meant more for the search engines, so they know all the different pages of your website and when were they last updated and so forth. It just makes it easier for them to crawl and find things. So then XML mobile sitemap is exactly what that sounds like. It's the same thing, but now it's talking about your mobile pages. The reason why you also want to make sure that you submit a mobile sitemap to Google is because it will then tell you if there's any errors on the pages and so forth. So although Google does a pretty good job in Webmasters, we talked about this, scanning your site and telling you if they have any problems with their mobile pages, well, what if they didn't know those mobile pages even existed? They never even got that far. So then they can't tell you if there's any errors or problems because they don't know that page exists. But if you told them and gave them this sitemap, and then they know all the page URLs, they will let you know that these pages we were unable to scan or index, or they were being blocked, or they're shooting out 404 errors, or whatever it may be. They will give you a lot more information that you as a webmaster or you as a business owner can take back to your tech team to have them go ahead and fix. Last but not least, you want to make sure that you check your mobile rankings, especially after April 21st. Because, I mean, if things are shaking up, we won't know the true rollout until it actually happens and any other thing that Google announces with this algorithm update. So we'll definitely keeping an eye on it as well. But you want to make sure that even if you aren't, forget about April 21st again, you should generally be looking at your mobile visibility and your ranking as well. I mean, if we reverse, like, if we go back 5 years from now, I remember when we were doing SEO for our clients, and our standard reports would be, if you're in Canada, we would tell you how you're ranking in Google.ca. And if you're in the UK, it would be Google.co.uk. And in the US, it would be Google.com. And that was kind of the norm back then, because that's the only level we could get to in terms of figuring out how accurately, if someone's searching in the country, or even in that city, of where you're going to be found position-wise. Well, things have gotten a lot more sophisticated then. So now we could track to see if someone is in Toronto versus San Diego versus, Miami. You can actually figure out exactly if they're doing a search, how do you rank right now? To the point where even if they're on their mobile device, so if someone's in Brooklyn and they're on 1st and 7th Avenue on the corner there, and somebody else is on 31st and 29th Avenue. By the way, I'm making up these street names, so if you're from New York, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying 2 different blocks. They're on 2 different blocks and 2 different intersections on 2 different corners, and they're doing the same search for a pizza store or a pizza store near me. Chances are their results might be different. I mean, it really depends how far they're away from each other, but yes, the results might be different. We've got the technology and the platform to actually pinpoint, by longitude and latitude, their physical location of how, if somebody pulled up their mobile phone, typed in any keyword phrase, how your website would rank right there in that position. That is very powerful. And again, it's not to say this data is needed for everybody and anybody out there, especially if your goal is to drive an in-store foot traffic, or if you've got multiple locations and you're a chain or anything like that, then yes, you'd probably want to keep a closer eye on how your mobile tracking is as well. So again, speak to your digital agency, speak to your consultant that brought you to this webinar if you are interested in learning about how does your website rank through mobile on specific longitude, latitudes, or streets. They could actually do that for you. We've got the technology to provide that information. So one last thing, so I mean, we're pretty much at the end over here. If you guys want to go ahead and start typing in your questions below, I'll make sure I try to get through most of them. 2 quick things before we do wrap things up. This is not to do with the whole April 21st update. This is just more to do in general in terms of if you're going to be leveraging mobile and so forth. The one most common mistake I think a lot of people overlook out there, especially if you're doing like pay-per-click and Google AdWords, is by default when you're setting up ads in Google, your ads will also get shown on mobile devices. So if you're sending traffic to pages, your landing pages that are not mobile friendly, or maybe they are, but they're not considering if someone's searching on a mobile device versus desktop, how are they thinking and behaving? Remember, we talked about quick, fast information, and the verbiage there is not the same, and the user experience will not be the same. That's a big loss for you. So you want to make sure that you create a separate ad group or a segment for your mobile ads and your mobile traffic and your mobile landing pages to really harness the power of that mobile search. What you're seeing on the screen right now on the left-hand side, this is a very, very powerful feature inside Google AdWords that we encourage businesses. If your main goal is to get people to pick up the phone and call you, you want to use something called the call extension, which puts this nice little button right on your ad, meaning people don't even have to go to your website. When they type in this case, I was looking for a taxi in Mississauga. Obviously, I'm just trying to, I don't want to read about their blog, how long they've been around for, and all that stuff that people have on their site. I just want to phone them. So their phone number, instead of, you could have it listed there as well, like how this one is, but you could even have a button that says call. You click it and it automatically will prompt you and call that number. This is great to improve your click-through rates. It's great to improve your quality score. We've seen significant improvements every time we've implemented these call extensions, not only in qualified traffic and conversions on phone calls, but because your click-through rates are higher, what ends up happening, your overall cost per click for your entire ad campaign becomes lower because you're improving your quality score. So again, I don't want to get too much into the pay-per-click algorithm and all that side, how that works, but I just generally want to say that a very powerful tool to use that. On the right-hand side, here's another example of how you could harness mobile. If you have an app that you're trying to get people to download and you want them to use your app opposed to just using your website, you might find that's the case. There's two powerful ways of doing it. Number one, you could set up that if someone went to, for example, like NHL.com, this is not on the screen right now, but you see a big splash screen that just says, download the mobile app, and then in small letters underneath, they'll say, no thanks, continue to website. So a user actually has to click on that specific page, and then the entire website would actually load and so forth. That's one way of doing it, or in this case, how NHL is doing it right now, you could set it up that if your widget, so your app actually gets shown at the top, and depending on if you're using an iPhone, this will open up in the Apple Store. It could open up in the Google Play, depending if you're on, excuse me, a Google phone and so forth. So again, depending on the platform, you could actually promote your app right at the top, and it only gets displayed to those people that do not already have the app installed on their phone already. So if I already have the NHL app, I would not have seen this. Otherwise, I deleted it, and that to take the screenshot, that gets shown there. So just some powerful ways in terms of how to harness either mobile apps or mobile ads in your guys' campaigns. All right, so that's it, folks. That's a wrap. There's my contact information. Again, if you did want to get that free analysis and the mobile SEO audit, or if you did want a copy of this presentation, or if you did want a copy of the recording, again, please go through the consultant or agency that brought you here to do that. Here is my personal contact information in case you have any specific questions for me. We've got about 5 minutes for the top of the hour, so I will go ahead and take any questions right now. Okay, so there's a question asking about if for the map listing, if you don't have a mobile version of your website, will your website be impacted in Google Map search? That's a very good question, and there's no clear answer to this right now. I'm still going to assume the answer is yes. So only on April 21st we'll know for sure. So basically, in case people don't know what this Google Map thing we're talking about here is, if I typed in pizza store in San Diego and you see the results like A, B, C, D, E, F show up right in the map results. That is pulled, and how to get there is pulled from various ways. Number one, it looks at your physical website and your organic score and your domain authority and all that regular stuff that we talk about, building credibility and quality towards your domain name to help it improve overall in the search and your result page. So that's a strong factor of how you're going to be ranking, if you're going to be ranking in that map listing. But that's only half the battle. The other half is something what we call the citation aspect, or the local directories aspect, which is making sure that your Google My Business page is populated 100%. It's got the right categories in there. You've got reviews in there. You've got the right keywords in there. And you've got pictures and videos and your store hours. So all that good stuff is there. And then on top of that, your business information is submitted to Yelp, Insider Pages, Manta, City Search, and all those directories, and they're all accurate. Like your website URL is accurate, your phone numbers are accurate, so it's all consistent. So Google takes all of that into consideration, plus in terms of your physical location of where you are and the person conducting the search where they are, to determine, are you going to be in that map listing. So if you don't have a mobile version of your website, will you get impacted if you're on the map listing? On the desktop search, no. On the mobile search, that's a very good question. I still think the answer is going to be yes, only because if someone clicks on that link, Google will know if you're taking them back to your mobile website and your website's not mobile friendly, because they have all the history of the things they're telling you to fix in Google Webmaster Tools. Chances are you're going to see an impact there as well. Unless, of course, you've never associated a web URL with a Google Plus page and just simply goes to your Google My Business page, in which case then I would recommend anyways that you should either get a website or direct it to your website for a long-term benefit. Okay, so I think most of the other questions, there are a few more, but I think we've answered them throughout the session over here. So unless I'm just scrolling up, I've missed any more, I think that is it. So again, thanks a lot for everyone that attended this webinar, that took the time out. We always appreciate feedback as well, so let us know in terms of either how this session went or what you would like to hear about in the future. Once again, my name is Baltei Gill. My contact information is bgill@m3sm.com. Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week. Goodbye.